Welcome back to another episode of the Buffalo Fatherhood Initiative podcast. As always, I'm one of your co-hosts, Sherman Webb Middlebrooks, a lifelong Buffalo resident and full-time black man. And I'm joined by my player partners on the couch over there. I'm going to let them introduce themselves this go around.
What's going on, fam? Glad to have you with us again. Looking forward to another good episode. I got my man Daniel sitting next to me.
Yeah, I'm back as an official host, my second episode. Super excited to be with my brothers in the work, Sherman and Antoine. Let's get to it.
Today, we got another special guest for you, Dr. Ty, all the way from Dallas, Texas, right? I was going to ask you what part of Dallas, which part of Texas, but I got it right. So
got it right. How you doing today?
Word. So just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, because this is like honestly my first time meeting you. We like to keep things super organic.
Authentic and organic. Yeah. Oh yeah. So my name is Dr. Ty Caldwell. I am from Dallas, Texas. I am the co-founder of Share. We're one of the 43 North winners from last year, previous year, and we moved here to Buffalo because we were one of the winners. But with that winning of a $500,000. You have to commit for 1 year. So we've come to Buffalo. We love the people. The weather is cold, but the people are warm, and we've just enjoyed ourselves being here.
Word.
So you brushed over that like real quick. Can we talk about the 43 North piece and what made you even want to enter that contest?
It's funny you asked that. We knew about 43 North probably in 2017. We built our company in Silicon Valley. So Share is the first B2B mobile app that connects licensed beauty and barber professionals to empty salon and barbershop space on demand. So people essentially like to call us Airbnb. It was a problem we were trying to solve for ourselves because we're award-winning salon owners. I've been in the industry as a barber, cosmetologist for 30 years. I wrote a best-selling book called Mentor by Failure. I'm the first African-American elect to sit on the PBA board. PBA stands for Pro Beauty Association. We work with a lot of the lobbyists and legislatures. So when things like COVID happen, we're able to now make sure that a lot of these professionals get back to work because they deem them inessential. And we're really essential because we work with a lot of the products to keep everybody safe. And so one of the things that, I've always been passionate about is just this industry as far as not being a gig economy worker, but being a micro professional, being a micro business owner, being a business owner. I'm an educator. I got my doctorate in professional barbering and cosmetology. So I'm deeply rooted in this industry. I haven't had a job since I was 19 years old. So I know nothing about corporate since I've left high school.
I love that, man. I hear the passion in your voice behind it.
Yeah. So
I know you said you haven't worked since age 19, but when did you actually discover that this industry was your thing, your niche?
It goes back. So let's take it back a little bit. I was born in Arkansas, small town, Alexa, Arkansas. Small community, probably about 330 people in that community. And I was raised in a house of 13, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, and father. I'm the 7th of 8 kids, and my oldest sibling had a child. So it was 13 of us in a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. So I knew community. That's why I'm so connected to Buffalo and the people, because I understand what that looks and feels like. But we couldn't afford to go to the barbershop and the beauty salon, every week. I picked up a pair of Fisker scissors. This was back in the days when we had the kid and play cuts and all that. I'm aging myself now. And I gave my brother a cut because, we just couldn't go to the shop. And I ended up cutting his hair as short as the scissors could let me go on the side, boxed him up, and didn't even know that there was a pair of clippers under the bed that my brother's best friend allowed him to use. And he never got them back to him. So he was gone to Texas for the summer to visit my other family members. Picked those clippers up. Started to work with them. I was an artist in school, so I could draw. Didn't realize I had a knack for it. So I'm 10 years old, cut those clippers, and I'll say, this is when the door opened up. I saw that I had a gift for it. So at 10 years old, I did a haircut on those clippers.
That's fire.
And that's crazy. At 12, I had my first job in the barbershop. And I got my first set of clippers at 13, 14. Somewhere along the line, I gave it up, but now I'm hearing the path of this could have been me. I could have. So no, but that's really dope though. Just to hear how you've been able to support yourself, because that's what the men in the shop taught me, that like once you pick these clippers up, like you'll always have a way to like eat. You always have a way to like feed yourself and take care of yourself. So that even at a young age, like I understood that too. So I really relate to that aspect of your story.
I appreciate that. And just to kind of add to what you're saying, people always looked at this industry as more of a, I don't want to use this word loosely, but of a flunky industry, like people who don't want to go to college is what you fall back on, because we as Black people, we always either straighten hair, use straightening combs, did the box perms at home. So we've never really seen it as a career. We've never seen it as a career path. We've never seen it as a job. So it was not something that you get out of school, you're like, I'm gonna go cut hair. They just think, oh, you've done it in the garage, you've done it in the bathroom. Why would you want to do this for a living? I looked at it differently. You know, I went to school. I was going to go to school for sports medicine, and I always had this knack to be my own boss because, you know, growing up in the country for a little while before I moved to Texas, I always understood hard work. So I was working in mowing yards when I was 7 years old, you know, putting the lawnmower behind my bike at 10 to go do all these different types of jobs. So, you know, working hard or doing work and making my own money was something that I enjoyed and I appreciated. So when I got out of school and I went to college and they was giving me all these remedial classes and all these basic classes, I'm like, I don't really want to do this. You know, so I had to have a come to Jesus moment and just pray to God. I said, you know, I want to do something that I love doing, that, you know, if I did it for free, I would still love it. And I went back to that first love, you know, which was barbering. And I said, you know, I'm gonna go to school, but I'm also still go to regular college and see which one is gonna fall off. And I love barber school and ended up becoming a student teacher of a 52 chair school, getting my cosmetology and barber's license from a dual college, and graduating top of my class. Left there, went and worked in a barbershop. After the first 6 months, I started managing. That's when I started meeting a lot of athletes and celebrities. Started building my clientele. But to take you back a little bit, my first day of working 12 hours, I only cut one client. And that was a $10 customer of the 12-hour shift. And most people wouldn't go back because you start to think, is this really a flunky industry? Can I really make some money? Yeah. And then 6 months later, I had a book of clients I couldn't even control anymore because clients kept getting in my chair and they say, man, this guy has talent. So I started just pulling in, you know, regular customers, and then I started getting Cowboys, and I started getting the teams that were playing the Cowboys, and now you're seeing the Tornado Sets, you're seeing the Michael Urbans, you're seeing, you know, all these different people, and so you start making a name for yourself. So I started really understanding the business, but it's not so much about the business of the barbering, it's really about the things you don't see. Are you consistent? You know, are you professional? What does professional really mean? You know, are you taking care of your clients in a way where, you know, people walk into a doctor's office or a dentist's office and they respect them. You walk into a barbershop and they think you can do what you want to do. So I started to understand the dynamics of relationships and working with dignitaries, working with men who are, I see that you're an alpha. I had a lot of clients who were, you know, alphas and, you know, Qs, and, you know, they start telling each other because they like to look good. So people like to look good. They want to go to people that put the work in. And I was one of those guys.
Yeah, you want to feel good too. When you look good, you feel good.
You feel good. And then you
play
get
good, Dion.
And they pay good.
Yeah. You said something, our last guest, Stephen Tucker, was on, and he was talking about, you know, taking, you know, your purpose to your paycheck, right? And marrying those two things together.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk, it sounds like you did that. For sure. And I think that sometimes that can be like, people like, oh, well, how am I going to be able to take, you know, what I love to do and actually make a living out of it? Can you talk more about, you know, for our audience, like where that courage came from for you?
I think it came as a kid. You know, you start to realize that you can do more with little. Most people think that you have to have a lot to do more with. I think that coming from where we came from, my mom having an 11th grade education, my dad having a 6th grade education, my great grandma is just probably not even a quarter generation from a slave. You start to see the work ethic, the mindset, the things that they're teaching you in order to, you know, navigate through this world. And you take it for granted when you're young, and you don't apply those. You think you're applying the present things at the present time. You're really applying the things that you were taught young as you get older.
Yeah.
And I started realizing that those things were helping me to navigate, not just with life, not just with the journey of working, but with people. Because my dad taught me a long time ago, because where I come from in Arkansas, racism was prevalent. You could see it, like it was right there in your face. Just to kind of date myself again, I chopped cotton from the age of 10 to 14 for a racist white man. So when you know my great grandmother always say, you know where you've been, but you don't know where you're going. So when you know where you've been, you kind of understand how to navigate through this world.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I think somebody who works with young people, a lot of what's missing in our young people is that sense of can do, is that sense of resilience. I deal with a lot of young people who come from environments where they haven't been taught that. And so I think from what I'm hearing from you sharing, like having those different generations to be able to pull from what they poured into you, that's what allows you to go out there and like have that courageousness and that level of fearlessness.
Yeah.
And you're a father. So how do you instill that in your children?
Well, you know, I'm a bonus dad, and I've been a bonus dad for 20 years now. My son is at the Air Force Academy. He's an All-American safety. Just won the Jim Thorpe Award this year. Just won the Defender of the Nation Award for Best Defensive Back for service cadets. And so what I've learned is that I didn't get, because my dad's a boomer, baby boomer, didn't get the communication, didn't get the conversations. I took it upon myself to break some generational curses that I saw in my own family, some dysfunctions that I wanted to correct, and do a recourse. So what I wanted to do was, regardless of what I did before when I was single, I wanted to be a good example for him. I'm talking about, not having arguments in front of him, making sure that the communication was there. When I'm out in the streets, how I handle myself. We as men, we're visual. So whether that's looking at people, whether that's looking at females, whether that's looking at things, how you conduct yourself, kids are watching. And you can't tell your kids, do as I say and not as I do, if you're not doing those things to show them a good example. So my goal was to be a great example, but to answer your question, communication was key. So I started communicating with him early, finding out what those issues were, not just at home, at our home, at school, at his other home. What are the things that are keeping you from being your best self? Having conversations on a level he can understand, but having a little bit of more mature conversation. So when he get to that level, he's already been there, showing him things that he hasn't seen, so other people don't have to surprise him.
I love that. Okay. I got two follow-up questions. My bad, John. So to take it back to like your profession.
Yeah.
So again, as a kid, the main thing that appealed to me and why I wanted to be a barber was because my pops worked in a factory, and the factory always seemed like it was the priority. Couldn't leave that place. And when I would be in the shop, I would see the barbers get a call about their kid, whether it's from school, their baby mom, or sports, whatever the case may be, and they'd be like, oh, y'all, I'm out. And they would just leave. They don't got to ask nobody. So for me, I'm like, I was kind of jealous, like, of these kids that I didn't even know, because I'm like, your dad can come show up for you. He ain't got to ask nobody for permission. It's that level of independence. So how would you speak to how your career path allowed you to show up and be present in the life of your kids?
That's a great question, and I don't think no one's ever asked me that way. I think what it did for me was give me accountability, but accountability to the responsibility of my job, not just my career, but my job. So I didn't conduct myself too willy-nilly. I just didn't jump and do this. I had commitments to clients. So when things happened, I knew when I could, and I knew how to communicate. Hey, I need to, go do this for the next hour. If my schedule for that day was going to end at 7 or 8, I brought them to the back of the schedule so that I could always, reassure them that I wasn't going to leave them out. Because most of the time barbers leave, you're just done. They're not going to get back to you that day. You got to come back another day. I would never do that. I was committed to my craft. I was committed to my business. I've been a business owner for almost 30 years. I worked at a shop for 5. So I got a chance to see it. I worked in the hood. When I got my shop, I always said the things that I didn't like from working in the shop, I wanted to make sure I did better when I got my own shop. So when you walked into my shop in Texas, which still exists, my brother runs it. My brother's the operations guy. My nephew is the finance guy. You would not know that a black person owned it. That's how upscale it is. That's how elaborate it is. Because at the end of the day, your business shouldn't look away because you're a certain color. You shouldn't have to walk in the business and say, oh, I think this is owned by a white person or Asian person. You shouldn't know who owned it. It should be the type of business owner you are and how you want people to see you as. So I didn't just leave clients. I would always communicate with them, and the right clients understand. I didn't just have clients who didn't care. I didn't just have hood people. When I started off, I did, but when you start to elevate and you start to conduct your business the right way, the people that came with you that shouldn't grow with you will fall off.
I love that part. Okay, and then my last question. So you mentioned being a bonus dad, and being able to be there for your son, and being able to help him navigate what's going on between both houses and both worlds.
Yeah.
So what's the communication like with the other parent, and how do you navigate that? Because I think a lot of times men and well, parents, I would say parents miss that opportunity to really have a strong, tight-knit village because certain things get in the way. So how do you navigate that situation?
Well, my situation was totally different. I think that, what I've experienced in the relationship that I have in my home is totally different than the relationship in the other home. I think because I've come from such old school values, community-driven, where, the village helps raise a child, this new generation is not like that. I'm in a situation to where, the other side wants to be more of the figurehead. And so you have to kind of say, hey, you know what, conduct yourself here, and all the other things you have to kind of course correct. So a lot of my relationship with my son, it's to give him balance, give him child, school, work balance. Child, school, work balance. He didn't have that. And so when you have someone else that may be a little bit intimidated that you're in the child's life, it can put pressure, stress on the child. And I wanted to pull all that stuff away from him. They can't see it as you're raising them. They can't see it as you're raising them. And so my goal was always to tell him, you'll see it later. So you have to have mature conversations at that level. And I never forget, I told him a long time ago, this was about 8 years ago, I told him, I said, I can come to 14, but you can't come to 41. Mm-hmm. And he didn't understand why I said that. And I said, I've been where you're at. You haven't gotten here yet. So I was able to conduct his life on what he wasn't going to experience way before he experienced it. So it looked like I was a prophetic prognosticator in his life, but I was only telling him these things because I've seen it before. This movie's been played before, so I'm gonna help you understand why I know what I know.
Yeah. Cool. And I think that's the benefit of having a father, right? I mean, having parents in general, right? But having a father, somebody who can chart the course for you, and give you that perspective. I think that's one of the things that I lacked, was like that, someone who can help, me see things that I couldn't see as a young man. And so it's just super cool hearing you share that.
Yeah, I told him a long time ago, I said, one thing about life, you're going to either suffer early or you're going to suffer later. Mm. I chose to be honest with him early so that he wouldn't have to suffer later. Mm-hmm. Because most men deal with their most traumatic experiences in work, relationships, raising kids later in life because they're hiding those things early on. They're working with them, they're not working through them. Mm. They're carrying the weight. And so when they hit that wall, they break. Mm. Everybody breaks. So I wanted to work with them because I was already working through my stuff because I've seen it already. When I was 33, I gave myself self-therapy. I went and got about 5 journals. And from the time I could remember life as I knew it, I journaled it because I wanted to understand who I was, why I was, and the purpose I was given to be here. And I journaled all the way and stopped at that present time that I was in, and I dropped it.
I'll be 33 in May.
That's your Jesus year.
Yeah, okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yo, speaking of therapy, because you were with us yesterday for the last session of Barbershop Talks.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mackie for opening up his shop for us. Can you talk a little bit about what you had a chance to kind of take away from yesterday?
I just want to say thank you. Great event. I am so glad that Jamil Cruz invited me. I almost didn't think I was going to make it. So I made it a point to get there. But a lot of pertinent information. I thought yesterday was super important for the community. I thought that bringing that type of crowd together, that type of people from different walks of life, you know, the deputy mayor was there. There was a minister there. There was actually a guy there who was actually, you know, in therapy. He was, you could tell that he was dealing with some mental issues within himself, but he was very well spoken. It's good to put yourself around people like that because what you glean from people are the things that you need to.
Yeah.
And I think so many times we closet ourselves. We hide ourselves as Black men to make things seem a certain way. And when you bring those type of people together and you become vulnerable, you become authentic, you know, information spews organically. And I think that that's what that, you know, that whole round table did for us yesterday.
It was honestly a pleasure to have you in the space, and you know I know we just met yesterday, but I'm looking forward to building this relationship and just actually doing some work together, man.
I'm gonna tell you something. When I left, it was so funny. I talked to Mackie till about 7.
Yeah, I saw you were still in there when I was pulling out.
When I was talking to Mackie till about 7, and when I left, I called my wife. And I told her, I said, "Man, thank you for encouraging me to go." And she was so happy. And I said, you know, I'm just now leaving the barbershop. I'm gonna go get us something to eat. I said, let Jamil know that, you know, we appreciate him. And what I left her with was knowing that I was about to gain some brothers. Yeah. I'm an emotional guy. And you know, one of the things about me, I lost my mom 3 years ago. Of 7 kids, I'm the strongest. You know, and the reason that I'm the strongest is because I give my flowers early. You don't have to worry about me giving my flowers. And I don't mind complimenting and giving you your just due. Yeah. So my thing was when I was there, I was like, man, I told my wife, I said, this is just what I needed. I needed to be around these type of people because I haven't been around this community. I've been around Jamil. I've been around some of his friends, and I've met a lot of phenomenal women who are a part of his community. But just to be in that room, oh my God, it really blessed me, so, honestly.
Yeah, and we need you in that room, and I'm pissed I wasn't able to make it yesterday. I'm tight. Y'all held out on me. All right, okay, all right, but I'm here today. God worked it out. But no, I think one of the things that's incredibly important to me, and especially what you said when you're able to go back to that younger age, like because I work with young people, so like I live in that. I'm very much in tune with like my former version of myself. And I understood that you have to see it in order to like know that you can be it. And people give other people permission to be something that they never seen or done before. And so like we need people like you to be visible. We need people like you to take up space on platforms. You need people like you to take up space in these rooms. Yeah. So that way like the younger brothers can see the different paths that are available to them for like manhood, and that way they can pick up those jewels that you're gonna drop along the way, just in sharing your story.
I think that it's important. I think you shouldn't look like what you've been through. I think it's important to not look like what you've been through. I've seen everything that most of these kids in Buffalo or any city think that they've seen or going through. And you name it, I've seen it. You name it, I've been through it. You name it, I'm related to it. I think that most people think that because they're living it, that no one knows the path that they're going, or the journey that they're going, or the stresses that they're dealing with. I am so happy to be able to talk to young people, because when I'm talking to a kid who's selling drugs, or when I'm talking to a kid who is abusive, I understand where they're coming from. I don't have to be a victim of it or a victim to it, but I've been around it enough. Whether it's drugs, whether it's pimps, whether it's things that kids are involving themselves in the streets because they're trying to anesthetize what's going on at home. And I want to be able to be a value add and a person who can kind of speak positivity. Me and my wife like to say optimism is a muscle. And so we try to encourage as much as we can, but I think being motivating is hard if you can't pierce their soul. So I try to pierce and get them to understand that I recognize, and then you get people to talk.
Yeah, when they said doctor, I definitely thought you meant doctor of psychology. Just the way you've been kicking it. So no, I appreciate that. Because I couldn't agree more with how you got to meet them where they at, and tug on those heartstrings.
Sitting with you now, man, and even yesterday, I feel like you, even though you might be a tad bit older than us sitting here, right? I feel like you're even more wise, or beyond your years, right? Where do you think that wisdom came from, and what's like the greatest piece of advice someone's ever given you?
I will attest this to my wisdom from my great grandmother. She was 90. She was 96 when she passed, and I was 15. My grandmother, her daughter, when she passed at 98. My father's still living. He's 89. I told my mom when I was 15, once I moved to Texas when I was a kid, that I would come back and buy our house, our land. We live on 3 acres. So I own that land to this day. But one of the best pieces of, this is crazy, it's 2 things, one from my mom and one from my dad. My mom said, "It's just good to be good." My dad didn't go to church with us. He would drop us off at church. Never went into church with us. But my dad always said something that I'll never forget. 2 things. He said, "The word of God is good from a hellish man's mouth." Let that sink in. The word of God is good even from a hellish man's mouth. And he always told me, "Son, it's 2 things you're gonna be. It's 2 things you're gonna be in life. You're gonna be twice a child, once a man." So my dad is living his childhood at 89. We're taking care of him. He listens to my advice. He's only been a man once. That's raising me and a child when he came to the world.
Wow.
It's taking me, where that's taking me, right? One of the Nas albums, I think it's like one of the most recent ones. I can't remember the name of the track, but I'm just thinking about it. It just made me think about that based on what you said.
So, those are the things that I carry. And honestly, I don't care where I go. The things that carry me the most are the things I learn from. That's why I'm able to embed, plug, meet great guys like yourselves, and it's just genuine.
Yeah.
I don't come off like I know everything. I'm not better than anybody. I've been around so many celebrities. I pitched Mark Cuban. He's an investor in our company. I've been backstage with 50 Cent, in the green room. I've talked to Barbara Cochran. Sheila Johnson, former wife of Bob Johnson, is an investor. Dan Snyder's an investor. People like to name drop, but the people that I've been connected with, they haven't made me. They've just been in my journey. They've just been in my purview. And I would like to say that you have to glean from people, because at the end of the day, it's gonna help you become a better person. So I don't do the things that most people think, and you wouldn't know until I tell you.
Yeah. Man, I think that's a good place for us to land today, man. You, like Daniel said, you've given us a lot, of wisdom.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you pulling up and becoming one of my new OGs. Definitely. And for the young people out there, like, OG don't mean original gangster. It mean offering game. And so if you're around a older brother and they not offering you game or advice and wisdom about how to navigate this thing we going through, like, then that's not really your OG. So just want to clarify that. But without further ado, this has been another episode of the Buffalo Fatherhood Initiative podcast. Make sure you like, hit that like button. Definitely share this episode. It's a bunch of gems and clips that we're gonna take out of this. But share this with somebody who can take one of these gems and apply it to their life. Be on the lookout for our next episode. And yeah, this is the Full-Time Black Man on behalf of my good brother Daniel Robertson and my man Antoine Johnson and the good doctor right here. We signing off.